I'm Susie.
I'm Ariel. Yes.
And we're going to start our interview today. And first question for you, Alina, is that could you start by telling us a bit about living in Ho Chi Minh City and what do you miss about it?
So going back to when I was in my home city, it was kind of like living in a chaos, but like in a more organized way. The traffic is bad. It's like always bad. Especially when it's like, off office hours. So it's like 5 to 6 p.m. It was always crowded on the roads, and the atmosphere is always bustling. The street food is everywhere, and it's always felt like the city is always awake, and you have to be awake in that city as well. Like you can never sleep in Ho Chi Minh City as well.
Like, what do you usually use like when you normally travel to someplace?
It's kind of like depends. So, I usually go motorbikes because it's like much more faster because like the traffic and everything. Yeah, so I usually go motorbikes, but my parents are against it because like they say it's a lot of dangerous. Yeah, so when I travel with family, then I would go by cars, but when I'm just like going with friends, then I would go with motorbikes. And coming here in Melbourne, what I definitely miss the most is, the noisiness. Melbourne is just too calm for me. Yeah, the calm. It's too quiet, and like calm. Slow. Yeah, and the energy, it's just not me. So, I just remember waking up to, honking, all the sounds of the transportation. So that's definitely what I miss the most.
Okay, got it. And the next question is that, what's your favorite Vietnamese festival or public holiday?
So definitely that, if you guys haven't known, it's like the Vietnamese Lunar New Year. It's kind of like similar to the Chinese ones, but we will have our own Vietnamese traditions to do. So it's, for example, it's usually lasts for like 6 days, and each days we will have like each traditional activities to do. So, for example, during the first day, we will usually visit our family relatives, and then the second day would be like just hanging out with friends, and then the third day would be for teachers. So you actually go to a teacher's house and wish them like a good year ahead. I feel like we celebrate it. It's really hard, and I feel like it's more just like a holiday for me. I was always looking forward to it when I was a kid because like I would got 2 weeks off from school, and it's so fun. And remember, like all the family members is finally gathering in like during Tet. It's really, I don't know, it's very happy about it. Yeah.
See, it's quite similar to the Chinese New Year.
Yeah, I think so.
But we didn't have the part that you visit the teacher.
Yeah. I feel like it depends to some households. Like some household would do it, but like some don't. But for mine, my mom's encouraged me to do it. Yeah. So.
Only you or with your parents?
No, with my parents as well.
Okay, get it. And which part of your favorite festival, which is New Year, resonate with you the most? Like, for instance, food or like decor or something?
Well, to be honest, it's very hard to decide because like we have a lot of traditional activities during that as well. But my favorite part is definitely getting the red envelope, like the money.
Get it?
So in Vietnamese we call it lì xì, which is like lucky money. Like I used to remember being prepared like the night before the first day of Chinese New Year. Me and my other siblings, we would always like gathering around and like putting money into the envelope for my grandparents, and then the next morning we would receive it like the exact same effort that we just did for like the last night. Yeah, and it's like, it's very heartwarming, and it's feeling like we're just a kid because like, people always said that, oh, you're old enough, you don't need to receive the lucky money anymore. But like in my household, we still use it. We still do it, even though I'm like, 20 years old already. So yeah, that's really like teleport me to when I was a child, and it's very cute. Yeah.
Very nice. family gathering back home, what small riddles, like maybe how dishes are shared or greetings exchanged, feels uniquely Vietnamese to you?
So I would say it's the way that we share food. So dinner tables in Vietnam are usually shaped in a circle. So every of the family members we will sit as a circle. So definitely feel like a warm family over there. And then the dishes will normally like placed in the middle, and then we will have like some kind of like, I would not say it's the ritual, but some sign of like respect to the elders. For example, like we would never pick the dish first. We will have to do it after our mom, our grandparents picked the dish before you did, and and my parent, and then you cannot like choose which piece to eat as well, because that will consider as selfish. Like you just like want to, when you're choosing which piece, for example, like a piece of meat to eat, that would consider as selfish, because like you just want everything good for yourself, and you don't want sharing for everyone. So two of them, which one was like never picked before the elders, and two is always leave the best for the elders.
So like, how can you pick some food?
Oh, you just have to like see it, which one is
randomly
like
pick.
Randomly pick, but you don't have to like toss it around and okay, I'll choose this one.
Okay.
But you just have to be like very genuine about it.
So it's not in purpose.
Yeah.
But I think it was quite difficult to like define what, like for instance, which piece of meat is the best.
Yeah, and sometimes like I just pick it like very unintentionally. Like I did not like watch that carefully. It's sometimes difficult, but you just have to do it.
Okay. And the next question is, how is respect shown toward elders in your family, and how did you learn that politeness growing up?
So it's about how we show respect by how we speak, eat, and serve. So for example, you will never raise your voice in front of your parents or whoever is older to you. You always have to speak in a very calm voices with politeness, and then you would always like give to elderly with two hands. Like you would never hear grabbing. You would be always like like a king or queen. You would always, here you go, kind of like that. And then one more thing is that we would never sit before the elderly. So you have to like let the elderly sit first, and then you will sit after, and that was considered as respect. Like it was like normally when you do it in public transportation as well, where you kind of like let the older people or the ones that have disability to sit on your seats whenever they reach to the bus or the trams. And that was kind of like the exact same thing that my house, like kind of like my household's rules, is that we would never have to sit first, like before the elderly. And that is like kind of like the most three important ways that at least my household show respect to the elders.
So I have a question. Is that, do you use some like polite words to?
Oh yeah, we do. So there's a lot of it, but you always have to. I think like in Chinese we also have this, right? But like in Vietnamese you have to like say some sort of polite words whenever we talk to Vietnamese, or if not we will consider as rude kid.
And the next question is, what Vietnamese culture practice have you consciously maintained while living in Melbourne?
One of which is that I still cook Vietnamese dishes. So, or at least I try. Just like a small things that's just like going like like one of the pho restaurants in Hardware Lane thing.
Nope.
Yeah, it's like one of the very rare Vietnamese restaurants in CBD that is actually matched with my expectations. So it's just whether grabbing Vietnamese food outside or making it at home. That was like the way that I still carrying that Vietnamese cultural practice here in Melbourne. And I'm really grateful that we have like a plenty, places and restaurants of Vietnamese in Melbourne. So Footscray. There's like a whole suburb of Footscray and Springvale.
Mm-hmm.
Those two suburbs are like sell the most Vietnamese food here.
Do you think it's delicious?
Yeah, they do. I tried it a lot. I have like a whole list of like what to eat whenever I go to Footscray. And actually good because like the restaurant owner is actually Vietnamese.
Oh.
So like the taste of like authentic and the taste of home is actually there. So yeah. Every exam season, I would always go Footscray because I was too lazy to cook. Like every single day. I'm actually gonna go like later but tomorrow. But yeah.
Sure.
And that really like helped me to deal with homesickness as well. Yeah, so when I first arrived in Melbourne, why is it so quiet?
No.
So when I first arrived in Melbourne, Footscray really helped me to, remember that kind of feeling of home, even though I'm so far away. Yeah.
Like a comfort food, right?
Yeah, comfort food.
Do you like often go shopping in the supermarket?
In here?
Yes.
Oh, not really.
Is there any Vietnamese?
Yeah, they do have like a whole Vietnamese market in Footscray. But yeah, because I'm not really good at cooking, and like the cooking recipe in Vietnamese is really complicated. So like considering just living by myself, I'm too lazy to do that. So I usually just prefer go to like the Asian groceries here in CBD. Yeah, they have like a really good ones.
Do you find is there any like difference between you go like shopping in Vietnam and you go shopping here, because there are lots of like big supermarkets here
that's true,
rather than markets?
Yeah, that's true. Well, back in Vietnam, there's a lot of chaos. Obviously, people wouldn't like lined up properly, or people would like shove others to like gain the first position and able to check out. I also noticed that in Vietnam they have a lot of deals. Like one plus one deals.
1+1 deal?
Yeah, so if you buy one, then you would get one free.
Yeah, understand.
There's a lot of deals in Vietnam, but in here they're really strict in that. Like I'm not really like seeing that much, but in Vietnam it's like very, very common. Or like 50% off. Or holiday sales as well. So like twin date sales.
Twin days?
Yeah, so every like 5th of May or like 4th of April or like the 3rd of March, there will be like a huge sales in everything. Yeah, especially like in foods or like supermarkets. And I don't see anything here in Melbourne, honestly. Yeah.
They're very strict about their prices.
It also has taxes.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And the next question is, which Vietnamese pet phrase or saying do you find yourself quoting most?
Well, I really have a hard time of thinking about this question because I don't know use that much of the cool Vietnamese quote, but probably Joy. So if you spell it like TROI and then space and then OI. Yeah,
What's that
so
mean?
Joy. So I don't find like the closest, like the exact translation in English, but it's like oh my god. Yeah, it's like oh my god. It's like an expression whenever you surprise or like you're shocked about something, or like you can't believe it in your eyes. You was like, Jayan. It's like oh my god, is this real? It's kind of like that. But yeah, I think that's probably like, and then like I teach this to like a bunch of my international friends, and they loved it. I don't know why they loved it, but yeah, it's simple as that. But they started to like use this word a lot of often compared to like oh my god. So I was like, what the? I was like, okay.
Like when you meet the same circumstances, like surprise.
Yeah.
Do you say like joy or oh my god?
No, it's really depends. So you know, like when it was like in the afternoon when my brain was like not functioning anymore and I cannot speak English that properly, then I would usually say joy or with like my international friends. But like mostly in situation, I would just say oh my god. Yeah. I'm not using that often, honestly. So, yeah.
And what does the word mate sound like to you as a Vietnamese speaker? And do you have an equivalent term that has the same friendly or gesture?
So, I think like the word mate is kind of sound a little bit too casual for me. Like in Vietnamese language, they would like kind of like categorize it into different ages. Like there were like different pronouns. Like if you're talking to an older female, then you would say a different pronoun. But then when you're talking to a younger male, then you would use a different pronoun. So like mate, it's just like I don't know. It's just like only
too
Aussie.
general?
Yeah, it's like too general. It's kind of too broad for me. It's kind of like an Aussie thing. I feel like in Chinese you also have those pronouns when you say to elderlies, right? Yeah, so like I feel like mate is more like a friend or something. It's kind of broad and a bit like general to me, but in Vietnamese maybe like ban which is like hey friend.
Oh,
It's close, yeah, but it's like still not the same vibe because I don't know why, but yeah.
And how can you say like in Vietnamese that when you say hi to a friend, maybe you want to say hi mate, and what can you use?
Oh yeah, I just say ban, which is like hey friend. So DAN and then space and then OI.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is like hey friend, which is like ban. It's just like mate in English. Yeah.
See. And how has juggling Vietnamese and English affected your sense of humor? Do you find some jokes could only be used in one language?
What is juggling in like this case? Like because
like combining maybe.
like combining is it like jokes or like just like some general sentences you say? Because like I honestly don't know what juggling means, so I have to like search it on Google and I was like, wait, what is this? So just wanna ask like more clearly like what is juggling by your sense? Just to be clear.
Like maybe combining like the two languages, Vietnamese and English. Like how can these two languages like affect your sense of humor? I think.
So it's like when you say a sentence, then you have like a mix of Vietnamese and English.
No.
Like a mixed understanding because you learn two of the languages. Like how does your understanding of English like affect like your usage? Or
Oh, okay,
you understand?
Yeah. So honestly, I don't do that often. Like this is like the first time that I've ever heard, but like I can say it's definitely somewhat affecting my sense of humor. I often find Vietnamese jokes often rely on like word play and like depending on like cultural context. But like I don't know, but in English I think say more of like a sarcasm. I feel like is that what you guys mean? I think. Cause like I honestly, is it what you guys mean?
I think it more means that like at initially like you only learn Vietnamese, right? But then you learn English as a second language, and then like how does it compares like when you only know Vietnamese and then after. Like, what is the difference between your humor, like, before understanding, like, English, learning English?
Ooh, that was a hard question. Like, before learning English,
Like, did you think that English how does it affect your sense of humor? I guess
Well,
that's more the point.
I don't think that English has anything to do with my sense of humor. I feel like my jokes are now kind of bland ever since I learned English now. There's a lot of like rhymes words in Vietnamese, but in English we were kind of like straightforward into the points. Yeah, in Vietnamese you kind of like go, like when you want to towards a points, right, you kind of like have to go around circle. But like I feel like in English you kind of like go straight into the points, and that is like what makes my sense of humor kind of not boring now, because now I don't know how to jokes anymore. Yeah, because of like learning English. Because like honestly, like do you guys feel English jokes are like more often boring compared to like other languages, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess like it's kind of somewhat affected my sense of humor in that way.
And I think it's more like culturally, like in Vietnam and in China, we're all like implicit culture, but in like maybe Australia, they're more like they are willing to express their idea like more in a explicit way and go straight forward, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's like
yeah, sure. And since moving to Australia, which aspect of Vietnamese culture have you come to appreciate more, and which Aussie habit have you happily adopted?
for me, it was like the warmth of like how do I explain this? So like the warmth of Vietnamese families. So like ever since I was in Vietnam, my mom like me and my family were considered like really close to each other. And then ever since I come to Australia, I really loved how they keep like check-ins to me and then FaceTime me and then saying, hey, remember to take care of yourself, and that kind of like caring, it's like so much more compared to when I was in Vietnam, because obviously they see me every day, right? And now since ever I study abroad, moved here to Melbourne, my visibility is not 100% as usual anymore. So like they're caring and showing love is more obvious now.
Weighs a lot.
Yeah, right. So like in Vietnam, there would be never a chance of my parents like saying to me like, oh, you need any more money, I can transfer you. But now back in Melbourne, bro, they keep like asking me like, do you need any more money, do you need anything, we can transfer you, don't push yourself too hard, please to take yourself a retreat every weekend, kind of like that. And I was like, I've never seen this version of you before. I was like, yeah, but like I'm super like grateful to have like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And like, what do you think is the reason behind it that leads to these like disparity?
Oh, so yeah, because like one of which is like my visibility is not with my parents 100% anymore. So that's why like they kind of like more worried about my life because like when I was in Vietnam, I'm being took care really well. Yeah, really well. And now they kind of like worried about like, oh shit, how is she gonna like survive herself? So that is why. And I think like there's one more part of the question is that the Aussie habit, right? Well, one Aussie habit I would say is the no worries attitude. So like Aussies often say like whenever you in trouble or whenever you do something wrong, they would always go like, no worries. And that is kind of like one of the habits that I really wanted to change and want to adopt in my life now, or since like ever since I was a kid, or in Vietnam in general, we kind of like pay a lot of the results, or like the results. So like if you get low marks, then it's your fault. Like you have to try harder. There will be like no compliments whatsoever about your effort. But like the no worries is kind of like really recognize, you know, your effort towards to something. And that was kind of like one of the habits that I want to show it towards to other people as well. Because I don't want to carry that like Vietnamese attitude anymore. So yeah, I try to practice it. Yeah.
Good luck on that. And after 1.5 years living in Australia, do you feel your sense of being a Vietnamese has shifted in any ways?
I would say it's both yes and no. No, because I still carrying with me the same, you know, Vietnamese attitude, and you know how I treated others people with like a Vietnamese heart, like empathy. Or I will still cook Vietnamese food for my friends, for broaden their horizon, and like, you know, cross-cultural understanding. But then, no, is that I'm being more conscious as I'm Vietnamese now here in Melbourne. I feel like more Vietnamese living in abroad because I'm kind of like carrying it intentionally, and back at home it was just like kind of normal. I was just like, oh, whatever. And here it was more like an identity for me and how people would look at me as a Vietnam in general, right? Yeah. I think that's how it like shifted.
So, when you introduce yourself to new friends, which parts of your identity, like for instance, origin, language, or profession, do you lead with? Why?
Well, I usually start with where I'm from. So I was always introduce myself, oh, I'm from Vietnam. And then they will always ask, oh, are you from the north or from the south? Because well, if you believe it or not, like the north, like the Vietnamese from the north and the south, they have like a very distinguished personality. Yeah, so from the south, they would more usually like grounded and more like outgoing, more nice. And the people from the south are kind of harsh, a little bit, and they would like, their personality would be like, you know, fluctuated. You know when girls in periods, yeah, they would kind of like that. They would like so angry out of nowhere, and it would be so kind out of nowhere. It would be so sad. And one of which is like, because in the north, the weather is like very fluctuating. It's kind of like Melbourne, so you kind of like experience that 4 season kinds of like in the day, and it's like so fluctuated. So that's why people moods also depending on the weather. So that is why like the personality is also really fluctuating. So like yeah, that is one of the reasons why people often go, oh, are you from the north or from the south? And that was, and like if I go, oh, from the south, I'm from Ho Chi Minh City, and they're like, oh, nice. And like I saw like my other friends that introduced like, oh, I'm from Hanoi, which is like the capital city in the north, and they were like, oh, okay, nice to meet you. And I was like, wait, okay, yeah.
And what nationality of people you are prone to be friends with here and why?
I'm prone to create friends with international students the most. I feel like as an international student, you have like a lot of common in a way of like studying abroad, away from home, adapt to a new culture and stuff. Yeah, I was also found myself prone to create friends with more with like Asian countries. I don't know why, but I feel like Asian friends just like more outgoing, I would say. They were more like, you know, outgoing and more open to create friends compared to, you know, Aussie or like white people here. Well, no racist whatsoever. No offense, okay? No offense.
Absolutely.
Actually, no, don't kill me. But I don't know. It's just like the, you know, the feeling of international friends. It's like international students here, that we need another international friends, and able to like, you know, feeling that kind of relief feeling from like, okay, I have someone that is like in common with me, somehow.
Some kind of companionship.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure. And the next question is that what's one stereotype about Vietnam you'd like people here to drop once and for all?
Oh, so is that we kind of traditional and conservative. So a lot of people said that Vietnam is like such a small country and we're not like fully developed enough, and we're not like able to have a professional international educational system kind of like that. But like in real life, we were kind of like we were really open, and we were everywhere. It's just not that small countries that everybody should know. We're proud to be who we are, and we want other people to feel that as well. Even though we're still, developing countries, but we try our best in everything that we do, and we want others to feel that as well.
Very positive. Okay.
I love her reaction.
a very positive, what can I say about idea. And the next question is that have you adapted in living in Melbourne? Have you found other challenges other than you mentioned before?
Well, not really. I feel like time management has been like one of my most difficulties. But back in Vietnam, I also studied in an international school. So that is why like I have like a very strong foundation of English. So I feel like I'm really open to create friends. So like I did not having any difficulty whatsoever in kind of like that. And one of which is that I'm extroverted. So like I'm not really scared of like, initiate a conversation or something. Homesick a little bit, but like eventually it will go away. I feel like time management has been like something that I try to fix it, but I cannot.
How about your dues and deadlines?
Yeah. Kind of like all the tasks, assignments, and I also have work as well. So balancing the work-life balance is definitely really difficult for me, but I'm trying my best.
You have a part-time job?
Yeah, I do.
Wow. Like, how can you deal with your homesick?
Well, I usually go for Vietnamese restaurants.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a lot here in Melbourne. I usually go to one of my favorite Vietnamese restaurant here in Melbourne, which is in Footscray. And like I'm kind of like know the owners there, and like whenever I go there, the owner would be like sit next to me and eat with me. And it's kind of like a family too, right? And it's kind of very it's very heartwarming. Yeah, it's very sweet. So whenever I feel stressed or burnt out, I would always go to that.
Excluding from food, do you have other like hobbies or like things that can help you to like
deal with homesickness?
Yeah.
I would call my friends. No, not call my friends. Call my family. I would like FaceTime them. Yeah, and then kind of like update everything here, life in Melbourne, and then hearing them, like hearing like the stories back at home, or like what's happening back in my family. It's kind of like staying up to date with like how everyone's going, and that's also like one of the things that I used to do that a lot when I was in like in first year and everything.
And next question is, what's your last question?
Oh, okay. I was like, wait.
What's your expectation before like coming to Australia? And after coming to Australia, do you find any difference between the reality and your expectations?
Well, one of the expectations that I have for Australia before coming here is that the nightlife is very boring. I've heard that Melbourne is such a sad city, right? Like compared to Vietnam, Vietnam is such a bustling city. Like everything is so alive. But like now in Melbourne, like every restaurant closes at 5 p.m. I was like, what do you mean by that? How am I supposed to get dinner? So I was like kind of shocked about that. And kind of like accept my fate when I reach here. But like actually the nightlife here is not that bad, right? It's like except for the CBD, it's like actually not that. It's still bad, but it's like acceptable. It's like, okay, this is good. This is like good enough. And that's kind of like changed the way of how people categorize, Melbourne as a very sad city, and people was like actually afraid to go to Melbourne to study because they say, oh my god, it's so sad, I'm gonna get depressed, I'm gonna be so stressed, I'm not gonna have fun, my study abroad journey will be so boring, kind of like that. But it's not that bad, I'm still alive though.
So you like prefer to go to the suburbs rather than the CBD?
No. I would always prefer to stay in CBD. Yeah. Suburb is just too quiet for me. I need noisiness near me. I need the bustling atmosphere. I stay at the CBD as well, and I'm not planning to move to suburb. Yeah.
Sure. Is the time enough?
Yeah.
It's like 35 minutes.
Yes, it's enough. So end of today's interview. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.